What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Rap and Wrestle podcast. I'm Derrick. You should know me. Follow me at Derrick T. Gamble on Instagram, Twitter, Rap and Wrestle at Instagram and Twitter as well. Today, have a very special guest, my boy Joakim Morales from Battle Club Pro. Bro, how you doing, man?
What's up, Derrick? Thank you for having me. I'm well. You know, the weather today was a little nuts. Time got away from me. That's why I'm doing this from the car instead of the nice setup I usually do. But I didn't want to keep you waiting.
Nah, it's all good. It's all good, man. Yeah, that weather, it was pretty nuts, but now it's like a whole turnaround. It's beautiful out there right now. It's crazy.
Now. The wind was blowing so hard and my air conditioner was whistling. So
man. Yeah, see, it was nuts. It was nuts
earlier, and now it's gorgeous, like nothing ever happened.
Yeah, man. What can you do? All you can do is improvise, like we're doing right now, man.
Exactly.
That's business. That's business. So, for my fans who don't know you, we talked before on the Wrestling IQ 101 podcast. You was on with me and my boy Andrew. That was a great interview that we had with you. Just tell them, what Battle Club is, Battle Club Pro, and how you got started with that.
Battle Club Pro is it's an all-inclusive independent professional wrestling company. I run it with my ownership team, Ray Red, Mike Sabs, Elijah Thomas, and Rick Charieres. Basically, just showcasing pro wrestling through what I've seen growing up. So a lot of minorities, a lot of, LGBTQIA community, hardworking people that are coming from the ground up that didn't necessarily have a big head start. DIY, ma and pop, like all the cliche lingo you can use, but we do it ourselves. We do it because we love it. We do it because we want everyone who may not necessarily get a chance to shine. And the whole goal is to have people that are on our shows eventually get to TV, get to those huge contracts so that their family is set going forward. I got in, originally I was just a commentator. The founder, Carlos Aristi, wanted to put me on the broadcast team. I told him I wanted more, and we worked together side by side. I've been down since day one, and eventually he just kind of handed it over to me because he saw the dedication that I had. He knew he could trust me with it, and he went on to have, I think he's on like kid number 3, but he's aiming for 4 or 5.
Oh man.
So yeah. He's trying to raise a little army over there. And God bless him. I love him. Tell him all the time, thank you for the good, the bad, the ugly, the headaches, the pride, everything that could possibly come with running a wrestling company. I always thank him for it because I wouldn't be anywhere. This wouldn't be happening without him. So I let him know as much as I can. I'm thankful for everything.
Yeah, that's pretty dope, man. To kind of just cross the line, and then now it's like you're running everything, man. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been kind of like difficult times for all of us right now, and just having to find different creativeness with COVID and everything that has happened with that. What kind of were some of the challenges now that you guys are having? I know a lot of people, they're kind of like reopening, they're doing outdoor shows and stuff, at least here down in Jersey. What are some of those challenges, and have you guys ventured with some of those ideas?
Well, we ran 2 outdoor shows last year, so we weren't strangers to outdoor shows. We've been trying to run outdoor shows since 2017. We also wanted to, along with being inclusive, we also wanted to stay in the same tone of who we are. So whenever we did run in Jersey, we tried to do what we could to stand out and be different. That venue is used quite often by a lot of people. That Knights of Columbus venue right there on Bergen.
Yeah.
So when we wanted to do an outdoor show, we wanted to make sure it kind of fit our theme. So the venue we have for outdoors is great. Right now, I think New York is still prohibiting gatherings of 25 or more. And I think if it's for like a protest, it's 100 is allowed, but it's got to be under protest. The New York State Athletic Commission, they're being boneheads when it comes to licensing and stuff, because we still don't know the nature of the beast. Like, we've got tons of information, but it's still in its novel stage. There's
Yeah.
no vaccination. There's so many attempts to find some kind of treatment. So the world is opening up slowly, but it doesn't seem to be going away, especially in America.
Yeah.
So right now we're okay with being on pause because we don't want to run anyone's health, risk anyone's well-being. There are companies that are going, and then good for them if they figure out a way to do it appropriately. If they follow the state and government's guidelines, that's great. My thing is that we've run in Jersey a bunch, but New York is home, and I
Yeah.
feel like, especially with everything that's gone on, just in terms of the world, the climate we're in with COVID, with social unrest and injustice, I think that we should return home. Like
Yeah.
it should be kind of grandiose. Like this is where we need to be. I think that's the most appropriate thing. So we're okay being on pause for right now because when we come back, we want to do it the right way, the appropriate way, in our style, and our fan base is from New York, and there's a population of them that aren't from Jersey, but I feel like since this is home, this is where the comeback needs to happen.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Definitely, I know how it is when you have that home company, and what it means to that area for sure. We have a lot of that here in Jersey. I know here in Jersey, I think I want to say the governor he cut it down back to like 25 people now. So I don't even know the challenges that we're going to be facing here now because of that. Because I know it was up, but a lot of people were like having parties and stuff, and they're just making it bad for everybody. So it's a very tough situation right now. Something that you kind of talked about, and something that I like about you a lot. With like social injustice and trying to be diverse and inclusive of everyone. I know you make your voice heard on all of these issues for sure. And just talk about just creating that culture and Battle Club Pro, and just like what was that mission of that, and the importance of you wanting to have inclusiveness as being a big part of your brand.
Well, like I said, it's I wanted to showcase what it is I saw growing up, what it is I knew.
Mhm.
You know, witnessing things that shouldn't have happened, seeing how people, certain people are afforded um, different opportunities simply because of who they are, or maybe they're not afforded those opportunities because of who they are.
Yeah.
So when it comes to having that voice, having that stance, and wanting that, inclusiveness in Battle Club, it was pretty easy. I mean, in our infancy, were we as inclusive? Were we as pro, women, pro LGBT? Not necessarily, but again, that was in our infancy. I think we turned that around pretty quickly, and we wanted to showcase, to everyone who it is we are. Just on a personal level, like I know I can't sit by and just kind of watch stuff like that happen and not at least speak up. That's the bare minimum anyone can do. You
Yeah.
know, I believe we're all the same, and it's, this thing goes back further than any of us could probably dare to imagine.
Yeah.
And it's just not okay. It's not okay. There's no reason that because my family comes from a Spanish speaking country, or because you might be a little darker than someone prefers, that you shouldn't be afforded any opportunities. And it's always been dumb to me. I don't get it. The best person for the job, regardless of race, creed, color, sexual orientation, that should be the person to get the spot.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to focus on, because it feels like for far too long, those people haven't been getting the opportunities. I mean, if you want to put it on like the biggest stage, like everyone now knows it was not the right move for Triple H to go over Booker T at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
That was
That's
over a decade ago. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? So
Yep.
like, and that's something that's recent. I said this on another podcast. Why is it that people like Butch Reed and Junkyard Dog weren't WWF, WWE champion. Why?
Yeah.
They had it all. You know what I'm saying? For whatever reason, that's, I'm not trying to bash anybody, but for whatever reason, that wasn't the case. So now I'm in a position where I can make it that, and that's what it's been. Tasha Steele's an Afro-Latina. She's our Icons champion. Anthony Bowens is our franchise champion. He's a, openly gay, half black, half Italian model, athlete, activist. Like, that's who we want to showcase. The C-stars, LGBT and Latino, like, because that's what I know. And does this mean that, talent that might not necessarily be what I've had growing up is going to not be showcased? Of course not. Matt McIntosh is a pillar of Battle Club Pro, and he's not, he's an Irish dude. He likes to say he's from Boston for heat or whatever the case may be, from New England. But, like, the whole point is, if you are about it, if you're the best person for the position, you're going to get showcased. It's just that I know what it is that I want, and I know what it is that should be showcased, and I'm going to give those people that opportunity, because I was, back to another podcast I did. I was on with Brotherly Love, and they were like, there's thousands of white-run, booked, and operated all-white, wrestling companies who don't showcase women, who don't showcase people of colors, and it makes you stand out, which is, in my mind, it's kind of weird, because I think Battle Club Pro is just a microcosm of what New York is, and New York is exactly that. Like, whether you got LES, Williamsburg, Park Slopes, like, that's what you see, is people of color, people with different sexual orientations, people who identify as, whether male, female, non-binary, binary, whatever the case may be. So, like, that's what I want to showcase.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say that too. I do think your Battle Club Pro represents like what New York is, for sure, and the people that make up New York. For you, did you find it hard to kind of like stand up for these issues and, sacrificing your business? Because, for me, it was like in podcasting, I'm African American. There's not a lot of African American podcasters out there. There are some really good ones that are out there, but there's a few of us who, represent us. And I feel like sometimes you have to kind of think of, dang, me standing up for this, is this going to sacrifice fans listening to me, or, all this stuff? For me, I made the decision that it doesn't matter to me, because at the end of the day, standing up for what I believe is right, standing up for my children, for what they're going to have to face in the future, that was more important to me. Did you kind of have any of those thoughts, or did that cross your mind at all?
So here's the thing, and I've been very vocal. Like, you could be conservative, you could be Republican, you can have your own opinion, you can have your own views, you can have your own rights. That's fine. That's yours. It's, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to change an adult's mind if they're not willing to change themselves. When you come to Battle Club, I want you to feel like it's home. I want you to feel like you're coming to grandma's house, for a banging ass cookout. I want you to feel safe and comfortable. Now, I've said it, like, if you're making it a point to be racist, to be homophobic, to just perpetuate the oppression that's going on in the world, I don't want your dollars. And while that might not be the most business savvy move, what I will say is this. You look at brands like Nike, Reebok, Under Armour, Adidas, they've specialized in sports. They're humongous because of sports. What are the predominant athletes in said sports? African Americans, Latinos.
Yeah.
So obviously, if those multi-million-dollar companies can back those kind of athletes and still be mainstream, obviously they're doing something right. Whether or not it's their legitimate political view or humanitarian view, that's another discussion to have. I just always known that, like, everyone wants to copy places like New York, Chicago, Detroit, Los Angeles, and they tend to flow on the side of the urban, the hip hop, rap. Like, they just go towards that. Like, people gotta gear towards that. It's always been like that, I think backing my people might not come off as a business savvy thing, but eventually, if all works well and I bust my ass and I do everything I can to build this brand, people are going to jump on to support because that's the cool thing to do.
Yeah, no, for sure. And for me personally, I always love when I see companies that, like you said, represent what I saw when I was growing up. And, for kids in urban areas like where we come from, it's good for them to see someone that looks like them actually succeeding in something that they love. So to be able to see those wrestlers on TV, to come to a Battle Club Pro show and see those wrestlers and, ring announcers, refs, and, just see a mix and pot diversity, that's good for children as well, man.
It is outstanding for children. I work in education, and the primary thing you have to do in education is build connection. And most people, build connections immediately. That first impression is how you look. Now, if you don't look like me, hopefully the idea is that you give them a chance to see if we can connect through personality. But I think, especially with children, hey, that's a person. I see that person first. We're gonna go and build from there. If I see that you look like my mom, my dad, my sisters, my brothers, hey, I might be more inclined to jump in, head first and go from there. Is it always the case? Absolutely not. And that's the wonderful thing about just life in general, the diversity. But like you said, like it's major to see someone who resembles me or resembles someone I knew growing up be super successful, because then it becomes inspiring.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. So let's talk about that. How did you get into working with kids, and how did that career come about for you, man?
Much like pro wrestling, I just kind of fell into it and immediately fell in love with it.
Yeah.
I was managing a Radio Shack at the time,
Uh,
and my sister had put my niece and nephew in a charter school, and like my sister's very involved. She's always on top of everything. So she overheard the office talking about how they needed somebody, and she kind of butted in as she does, to find out like what the position was or whatever. She got the info, she relayed it back to me. I was actually set to open one of the flagship stores that Radio Shack was supposed to be coming out within the city. And then I did the interview for the school just to do it. I always tell the kids, like, say yes to every opportunity that comes up, because you don't know where to lead. Like, if you fail miserably, then you're back where you were if you would have said no, but at least you tried.
yeah.
So I took the interview, and they wanted to give me the job. So I called the district manager that day. I'm like, hey, I'm out. He's like, what are you talking about? We're about to toss you in on Fifth Avenue or whatever, this multi-million-dollar Radio Shack store. Like, what are you talking about? You're done. I'm like, I'm done. I'm gonna have weekends off. I'm gonna have summers off, or summer with extra pay. Plus, I get to be in an environment that I feel like I can thrive in. I can actually make change instead of, doing something to. And there's nothing wrong with being in sales. You do build connection in sales, but like, the hope is to do something that will help inspire change. And if you get kids at the base level, when they grow up, the idea is that they're better humans, and then you leave this world in a better place than you found it. So I was like, I'm gonna work in education, and haven't looked back, and I loved it ever since.
Yeah, man. Look at that. It looks like you made the better decision,
Right,
because
right.
Radio Shack's not even around no more.
Right, right. So I'd be looking for a job, and it's crazy. And then, like, I made the right call, and I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah. Do you ever collide those worlds, and I'm sure to keep kids in line, like you could use wrestling as a persuasive tool, or a way, that's how kids are, man. We always got to bribe them, right?
Yeah, there are a few students who love the fact that I'm involved in wrestling. It blows their mind when I tell them, when they'll ask me, hey, have you ever worked with this person or that person? I'm like, yeah, look, and then I'll show a picture. The best reaction I think I ever got was, there's this kid named Raymond where I work, and he didn't believe. He didn't believe. Like, I showed him tons of pictures. He was like, no, this not real, whatever. It's like, he just didn't believe. And he was huge LAX fan, and specifically loved Diamante. And I was like, okay, cool. And then I went to film a Wrestle Pro show, and she was there. So I was like, hey, like, it was the first time I'm meeting her, but I was like, hey, like, I've got a student who's kind of on the fence when it comes to like schoolwork and behavior. If you could just do a quick video and, you know, tell him, hey, how you doing? Keep it up in school, I think it'll work. And it did. Like, I called him into the office. He thought he was in trouble. And I showed him a video of Diamante, you know, shouting him out. And he just, like, he almost cried there. He was floored. He just didn't believe it. And I actually recorded that reaction, and I sent it to her. And you know, conversely, her and I have been really tight ever since. And he's been, for the most part, he's been a really good student since.
Yeah, see, that's great, man. It's good. It's good when you could, you know, that's kind of like what we said, just showing, you know, kids in those urban areas, like, you know, that there's people out there like you, and, you know, and they care about you too on top of it. They want you to succeed too on top of it. You know, just talking about Diamante, and I know somebody else that, you know, you pretty tight with, Mia Yim as well, and, you know, what she's done for Battle Club Pro. How excited are you? Like, Mia Yim, the last time we talked, I think she was in the it was the tournament, the Mae Young tournament, I want to say it was.
Yeah.
And then now Diamante, she was just on AEW on Wednesday. Like, how's that feel? You see those wrestlers that, you know, that have come through Battle Club Pro's doors, and now, you know, they're on TV and they're making it.
It's wonderful. It's absolutely amazing. Battle Club will never take credit for putting anyone on the map.
Yeah.
All we are is a stepping stone for those wrestlers to get to where they need to be. And it's a privilege and an honor for us to work with them to get them there. You know, but, you know, the athletes, they do all the hard work. They train, they bust their ass, they make the drive, they take the flights.
Mm-hmm.
But it's wonderful to see someone that you genuinely know is a good person. I've said this a lot, like, there are pillars in Battle Club, you know, Bowens, Carter, McIntosh, Federated, you know, Harlow, Tasha, Savannah Evans. Like, there's just people that are like there, and they're going to be there up until it's their time to leave. But it's rewarding because you know these people are just genuinely good, down to earth people who want nothing more to succeed. And when you can see them, like watching Tasha on Impact kill it is amazing.
Yeah.
Watching
Yeah.
Diamante on AEW kill it, it's amazing. Mia Yim is on NXT. It's like, I remember I was hanging out with the gift god Hokai, and we were like driving, and she was on TV. So like, he put it on his phone. So now, like, we're driving through the Bronx, and we're watching her match on his phone, just to be like supportive of her. And
Yeah.
immediately after, we like sent her messages or whatever. And, you know, it's just wonderful because wrestling's always evolving. You know, people are coming, people are going. But, you know, our mission holds true. It's like, all we want to do is help showcase talent to the point where they could get that major contract. And it is very rewarding to see that happening. And, you know, we still got a lot of work to do. But yeah, Mia Yim's personally one of my favorites. You know, I've gone on record as saying, like, Mia Yim, LAX, Diamante, like, they've done a lot because they had this following beforehand, that before we ever, you know, were a thing. And they decided to come and help us out, and it did help propel us. You know, same with the current WWE champion, Drew McIntyre. He didn't have to come work for Battle Club in the Bronx. He didn't, but he did.
Yeah.
You know, he defended the WCPW title, which was great, against Bowens. That was just awesome. He didn't have to, but he did. And not only did he do that, he was really nice about it. He was kind. He helped. Like, if anyone asked him for 5 or 10 minutes just to talk, you know, he gave his honest opinion about everything. You know, was so down to earth, decided to take a picture with our shirt on just to help us, you know, again, use the following that he had already maintained. And that's the whole thing, is to give back. And it's wonderful. It's rewarding. It's feeding that ecosystem so that it can continue to feed others who are coming up on their own.
Yeah, for sure. And you guys at Battle Club Pro, um, I like to say, because I know last time we talked, you were doing the all woman show for Battle Club Pro, and it's like you guys and even like a lot of other independent companies like are ahead of the curve when it comes to the way like society is evolving in general. You can see now like AEW, like they have great talent like Sunny Kiss. Like we here in the tri-state area, we knew Sunny Kiss was amazing already. Just Anthony Bowen and stuff like that, and Nyla Rose, and just things like that, and just featuring women more. I know you probably won't take credit for it, but people like us, we like to give you guys credit, because the indies is where a lot of things are created, and a lot of the big guys, they take from the indies, man, and to create. Do you ever feel like that? Like the big guys, they're kind of slow when it comes to, evolving and doing the things they need to do?
So what I think happens is there's a formula for success,
Mm-hmm.
and the more successful that formula is, the harder it is to get away from it.
Yeah.
When you're striving to succeed, you can fiddle with your formula to try to make it as successful as possible. So that's why it's always easier on the indies to do different things, because the roof only gets so much higher the more you succeed. And then once you find that like thing that's going to make you totally successful, if you want to take that opportunity to try to do something totally different to see if it'll still work, you can. But I think a lot of people are just not scared. They're more reserved when it comes to trying to do things differently. I think with AEW and WWE, they might not necessarily be slow. I just think it's more about when they can be most opportunistic to do those kind of things. Whereas like a company like Impact has always made it a very, very focal point to like emphasize how important their knockouts are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think, the knockouts division has been probably the top women's division for a while. It might not be the top now, but like they made it a point to focus on them, and you see now it's the bigger brands are doing so. I just think it's if you know something works, it's harder to get away from it. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
to make it a sports reference, like Lonzo Ball has a disgusting shot, but it works.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's hard to tell him to change that if it works. Now, can he tinker with it a little bit? Maybe his release could be faster. Maybe he could pick the ball up a little higher so his release isn't as long. Maybe he can jump a little higher. Like, you can do things to tinker with it, but you don't want to totally change what you're doing unless you know for a fact it can be completely successful.
Yeah, no, that definitely that makes a lot of sense for sure. When it comes to Battle Club Pro, what do you do personally to kind of differentiate yourself from like everybody else that's around us? Because we know this area is saturated. There's wrestling companies popping up every other day out here. What does Battle Club do to say, hey, we're not like these other guys, and you should come watch our shows?
I guess I've never really been. I'm only gonna say we've never been afraid to showcase talent that might not be familiar. I just want like Ruby Reyes was on the first WCW show. Now she's well known on the West Coast, but maybe not so familiar over here. And it was a pleasure to have her here, to have her work with us. I think it's just a bit of wanting to try to be outside the box in terms of talent. There's but so much you could do if you don't have the budget to make these exponential like production decisions.
Yeah.
So you gotta try to focus on what you can do, and what you can do is maybe book different talent, book different types of matches. Um, Lately, it's been more of a focus on, hey, there should be equal, if not more, women on the card than men. The you know, the LGBT community should have as much representation as possible all throughout the card. But it's at the same time, it's also not just putting them there because that's who they are as people. Like, do they fit the brand? Do they work? Do they have the specific level of work that we should be showcasing? And I think we found a really good space to be in. Never, afraid to try different things. Like, I put Joe Gacy in a match with Trip Cassidy, and I saw them, and my mind melted because I'm like, man, they'd be a great tag team. And lo and behold, like that happened at the beginning of the year. The end of the year, I had them do a tag team spot, and it was incredible. It's about, I think what we do well is we're never afraid to kind of just do something different. And it's like that old saying where you throw something against the wall and see if it sticks. I think a lot of the companies in the tri-state do their best to do the same thing. And I'm, again, not trying to knock anyone, but it's like I said, like, I've always tried to make it a point for the fans, for the staff, for the sponsors, for the workers, you come to a Battle Club show, you feel safe. And once you know you're chill and it's safe and it's cool and you got nothing to worry about, you can be relaxed and you can let your guard down. That's when true fun happens. And I think that we're keeping that along with being different enough so that those two things kind of, melts together and you just feel like, hey, this is somewhere I want to be continuously and going forward.
Yeah, no, definitely, for sure. And I think you're doing a good job at, providing that to your fans. Being in New York, I gotta talk about rap music. This is the Rap and Wrestle podcast. What hip hop are you listening to nowadays?
Nowadays,
he's like, what hip hop? There's no hip hop now.
You know what it is? It's different, and there's nothing wrong with being different. If these artists are, they're making these hits, whether it's one hit wonder or whether it's something that might not necessarily connect with an older generation, but they're getting their YouTube views, they're getting their record deals, their record sales, they're getting plays on places like Spotify, Pandora. If it's working for them, that's great. I've always been someone who needs substance in the kind of music that I listen to. So I've always had an affinity for, like, Tupac. Biggie was more of the party rapper, but he's had his moments. Like, I mean, God, I know the song because I'm from Bed-Stuy. I feel like I'm selling out. But he was like dedicated to all the teachers that said I wouldn't amount to anything. Yeah. I was just, trying to sell drugs to feed my daughter. Like, that's real.
Yeah, that's juicy.
Real. And that's what juicy. There you go. Yeah, and I'm like, why can't I fucking remember it? Like, I need substance. And I'm not saying that's not what rappers nowadays have, because there are Kendrick Lamar, Lucas Joyner, J. Cole. They're there. It's just the party scene is the mainstream scene.
Yeah.
And it takes some of those partiers to kind of recognize maybe substance in what's being said is more important for that to change. Yeah, because that is what happened in the 80s. In the 80s, it was pop lock. It was all about dancing, and hip hop was partying. And then the NWA comes, and then it's like, shit, this is really happening in real life. Let's pay attention to that. And then from the late 80s all the way through until like the early 2000s-ish, you had rappers that have substance, and those are the rappers that people listen to. Yeah. This Tupac had a quote where it was like, I'm not going to change the world, but I'm going to influence the mind that does. So that's kind of in the position we are now. Like, yeah, party rap, mumble rap, whatever you want to call it. That's the thing. But, these guys that are chipping away, Cole having albums with no features, that the racial divide song that Lucas Joyner had, the two different perspectives, like things like that. You keep chipping away, eventually enough people who are partying are going to listen to that, and realize that's what we should be listening to, because that is not only something that is actually going on, but it opens our cognitive minds up to realize, well, the only way to change something is to recognize what's wrong with it first.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that's what's going on with all the social injustice in the world right now. It's like so many years of seeing all this nonsense going on, you recognize there's a problem, and now it's being, now the fight is actually being fought.
Yeah,
And you got to keep your foot to the pedal and keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. you know all the hashtags, they matter. You just don't want anyone to become a hashtag. I would, so you fight so that doesn't happen anymore. I can't breathe. Who would have thought 5-6 years ago, when that happened to Eric Garner, that 5 or 6 years later we'd be using the same phrase
yeah,
for a different black man as his last words for a reason for police brutality to stop.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? And this is again a recency. This is 5 years. These things have been going on forever, for
yeah.
far longer than anyone should ever realize it. Hopefully the goal is that, along with music and entertainment, pro sports, wrestling, that in 20, 30, 40, 50 years, when those children are growing up, they don't know what racism is. They don't know what excessive force is. They don't know what, civil unrest is, because things should have gotten to a point where there finally is true equality.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think a lot of with music, especially when it comes to children, um, it's so easy for like children to remember lyrics to a song as opposed to like learning schoolwork or something, because it's something they're interested in. They want to learn it. They want to know the lyrics. So I think a lot of times I don't think a lot of these guys realize like the influence that they actually have on a lot of people, and they may not think of it like that. And it's a lot easier to influence people nowadays because we all got free social media. We all could they didn't have that back in the days. It was only a certain amount of people to get your stuff on the radio, Hot 97, things like that. And now it's like you could broadcast to the world. Like with the music nowadays, though, I don't look at it in a bad way either. Kind of like you, the same way, because the same way we got our hip hop, our parents looked at our hip hop the same way.
Right.
They're like, what is this
Right.
crap? So and I kind of like that. We're kind of in that middle divide of where we're like in the middle of that generation and this generation. So you can still kind of listen. Sometimes you want to party, you want to just enjoy
Right.
whatever. You still but it is what it is. I let the young kids do their thing, man.
Right. There is absolutely nothing wrong with these artists making their money, their worth, their wealth, and having their kids and their kids, afterwards being taken care of. It's just, I've always had this saying where it's like, I don't understand how racism exists, because like the only color that matters in this country is green.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's good and bad, in the sense that if you have it and then you're doing everything you can with it to help, then it's infinitely good. But the problem is, you end up having so many people that have it, and that's all they care about, and they don't care what you look like. They'll sell you out in order to keep it. That's the wealthy elite, or whatever it is you want to call it. And it's unfortunate that stuff like that, it affects the minds of these artists. Like, they're like, all they want to do is, all I care about is money. I don't care who buy my records. I don't care what it is I'm doing. And it shouldn't be that way. If you've earned a platform and you knew you came up from a position of oppression, it doesn't take much to help out. Even if it's something as, people like to nitpick, or like, oh, well, he only had one woke or conscious song, but at least he did something, he, she, or whatever. Like, and that's what I've always advocated for. And going in the opposite direction, like, going all the way back to that early question you said, like, you can have a difference of opinion. I don't think there's such thing as a difference of opinion on basic human rights. But if you don't agree with something, That's fine. Where you mess up is where you stop, where you don't tolerate it. You know, the moment you become discriminatory against the
Mm-hmm.
thing you have a difference of opinion on, then you're wrong.
Yeah.
Because if it's not directly affecting you, what does it matter?
True.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So, you know, to tie this whole thing together is like, yes, today's music might not necessarily connect with the generation in their 30s and 40s, but that generation that's under us, like those artists specifically, maybe, you know, maybe tune it up a bit, because as you get older and you have kids, you start to see shit, partying is not the only thing that's important in life.
Yeah.
And
No.
you would want that world to be better than you left it, than you found it. So, you know, make all your money, all of them, the nonsense, the colorful music, the saying the same hook 700,000 times and only literally having one verse. That's fine, but do something productive with what you got, because you want things better. You should want things better, at least.
Yeah, no, definitely use your platform for sure. If you got it, I definitely think you should definitely use it. You know, when it comes to New York, I feel like especially in music, like New York is like the core of the music industry. It's where a lot of great talent comes from. A lot of creativity is mimicked from New York. The great debate: who do you think is the best rapper to ever come out of New York? I know that's a tough one.
Woo!
That's a tough one.
Woo! Good Lord, that's a.
All right, give me your top.
Um,
Give me your top three. How about that? Give me your top three
if
out of New
all right,
York.
so okay, so we'll do. I'll do. I'll do my top three. I'm not saying this is the top three. I'll do my
Okay,
top three
fair enough.
from New York. The first two are pretty obvious: Nas and Jay-Z.
Okay, got you
Um,
on that one.
Now, the third one, like I said, I was a bigger Tupac fan than I was a Biggie fan. It's just like
Mhm.
Tupac, while he like Biggie had a better flow. It was more party vibes. It was more happy and uplifting, and like, you know, that was the chill music. That was the music of the time. Like with the things Tupac would say, whether he was angry, whether he was, you know, empathetic, whether he was, you know, just trying to tell a story, like it connected with me. So
Yeah.
I was a, you know, bigger Tupac fan. But, you know, you could put Biggie in that third slot. You could, you know, if I wanted to be an oddball, um, you know, Big L's time was cut way short.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, I love the way the Joel Ortiz cadence,
Yeah.
like uh,
Yep.
Big Pun. Like it's too hard to
Hmm.
specify, but um, it's just, I mean, you pretty much can't go wrong with just about anyone. But I'm gonna go with, I'll go with Jay, because now he's in a position where he can affect change in the neighborhoods he's been in, and he's tried.
Yeah.
Uh, Nas again, just very just conscious and always just spit. It felt like he spit from the heart. Never really got his
Always.
due. Um, okay, top three from New York that are still living. Uh, man,
It's tough.
Joel
It's tough.
Santana is another one. It's just I'll go with Joel Ortiz just because he's hysterical.
That's good.
This
No,
is, this,
Joe T,
this
he
is
got bars,
my
man.
top three. This is
He
my
definitely.
top three. That if I'm taking a long road trip, like those three artists would definitely be on the iPod going or whatever the case may be.
Oh, see, that's dope. That's dope. I'll give you that. It's that's a hard question
It's so
to ask
hard.
anybody. That's like asking somebody in New York what's the best pizza, man. That's a hard place.
I'll tell you my personal favorite. My
What's that?
personal favorite is Joe's on right off of Carmine. Not off. Yeah, it is Carmine Street. Yeah, right
Uh-huh.
there. In the city. I mean, that fresh Mott's fucking slices. Woo, love it.
Yeah, I gotta try that. See, we got Jersey. Jersey got good pizza too. That's the
Jersey
best pizza in
pizza.
the world. Jersey and New York, man.
I don't know about best pizza in the world. Because you know what? I got put onto pizza in New Haven, Connecticut. I
Yeah.
never, yo, I'm telling you, I went, I was like, oh my God, this is so much better than anyone's giving it credit to. But Jersey's pizza is underrated because it's like everyone just thinks New York. Like Jersey has some bomb pizza. It does.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a weird like bias thing. Like if you're from New York, you just don't like Jersey. If you're from Jersey, you don't like New York. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
weird. Like how, and that's again, that's a deeper conversation in terms of conditioning. Like we're literally separated by these invisible lines. We shouldn't be hating anybody.
True. Facts on that. Facts on that. That's funny. Someone, I posted a meme like a couple weeks back, and it was like, the top 5 pizzas in the world, and it was like New York, New Jersey, the rest doesn't matter. And then, and what,
That's not. If you ever find yourself in New Haven, Connecticut, man, Sally's, Pepe's, Frank Pepe's, like there's some good
yeah,
pizza in Connecticut. I was like stunned. I was like, oh my goodness, this is super quality.
yeah.
So
One of my friends, she went to school in Connecticut, and she actually responded back, and she was like, I'm telling you, the best pizzas in Connecticut. She was like, you got to come with me out there. I was like, Connecticut, what? I was like, are you serious?
it's wild.
Connecticut?
Here's this is the thing. Like you can never really tell because the best time to eat a slice, if it's once it's fresh cooked and you get it cut from a fresh pie,
Yeah.
and then you eat it. But how in the world are we gonna get a pizza from Jersey, New York, and Connecticut in the same place at the same time to actually tell?
True.
You
That's
know,
fact.
because you could be having a bad day and you go and try Joe's and you're like, all right, well, it's subpar. And then a month later, you're on a date with a beautiful person and they're like, hey, they swear by Joe's. And you're like, well, I didn't really like it. Then you have it again. You're like, yo, this is so much better. The
Yeah.
company you keep, like the atmosphere, everything can affect your taste buds for that moment. So like, we'll never actually know what the best is because you can never actually try all 3 and under the same conditions.
True. Yeah. I'll give you credit on that one. I'll give you credit on that one. When you were talking about Nas, kind of jumped back. We started talking about pizza. See, Nas. One thing I love Nas because Nas is like real, and people always gave him a lot of slack because he would try to kick knowledge to you, and then he had Uchi Wally Wally, and for me that was like, it just showed like, yo, I'm a real person. It's like, yeah, I love these things, and at the same time, I want to still school you and teach you to do better. You know what I mean? What's your thoughts on that?
It shows it's a baseball term. It's called range. If you're playing short, you could still you could cover third base or second base, and still you filled your position. That's all Nas had was range. He could party it up. Uchi Wally, the summer that song came on, like that's all you heard. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
But then he'll turn around and I know I can, like he'll drop something like that, and it's like that's all it is, and that's all. Again, that's a reflection of just the actual human condition. No human, anyone, anywhere is just one single solitary thing.
Yeah.
An extreme example, and I'm not advocating for any of this, but an extreme example is, do you necessarily think that Hitler's family saw him as the villain the rest of the world did?
Facts,
And I'm not advocating at all for Nazis, just an extreme example. People will always be the bad guy in someone else's book.
Yeah.
You just don't know whose book that is. You don't know who's going to tell your story. They could tell your story, and it could be what the majority thinks is that this was a great person, and then you'll always find that other person was like, well, you know what, kind of because he was kind of an asshole to me, and they're like, really, I've never gotten that, but you're like, you never know. You just go on living your life as best as you can. But all Nas ever did was just show the range he had, and again, in line with Tupac, again with J. Cole, as much as he dropped that song where he talking about letting Nas down, because that first hit was a party hit, and it just didn't show at all what he actually could do. But again, that's range. Like in his infancy, when it came to mainstream rap, he dropped a party song, but he realized that's not who he necessarily was. That shows growth. That shows character. That's all people. All people have that same thing. You could be, a functional pothead. All you do is smoke all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Someone sits you aside and tries to clown on you, and then you sit there and you hit them with every medical reason why smoking pot is a good thing to do, they're going to be dumbfounded, and you're going to look like a rogue scholar.
Yeah. Facts.
So like, that's range. That's all people like that. Now, some people have more range than others. It also depends on what it is you're talking about. You know, you can't judge a fish's intelligence when it comes, you know, if they're going to try to climb a tree, because that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So you're going to think that if is the fish an idiot because it can't climb a tree? No,
Yeah.
that's not what it's designed to do. So yeah, no, I totally agree. You know, Nas's range always got kind of got shitted on for it, but it just showed that that's who he is as a person.
Yeah, I always just hated that perception of like if you're going to kick knowledge, you got to be one certain type of person, and it's like you don't have to be that type of person. You can still like women and still try to teach somebody something at the same time.
What I've come across is a lot of those people are Jay-Z fans, and that's fine to be a Jay-Z fan,
True.
But you know, he was dropping party hits with Foxy Brown. You know what I'm saying?
He's doing the same thing. He's doing the same exact thing.
And then, but you didn't think the dude that was like doing the party records with Foxy Brown or, you know, whatever else he was doing was going to turn around and become an assassin with Takeover. That didn't come to your head. There's no way you thought that was going to happen.
Yeah.
But he dropped Takeover, and you're like, oh, my Lord, he just murked Nas.
Yeah. Yep.
So, like, again, he showed range too, but you know what it is that, again, the only color that's actually important in this country is green. So when the debate came who's a better rapper, I feel like everyone who's a Jay-Z fan defaults to like, who sold more records?
Yeah.
Jay did.
Yep.
And that doesn't necessarily mean he's a better rapper. It just means he sold more records. But that was, you know, it's the same thing with the Yankee. If you're arguing with a Yankee fan, no matter what team you're for, they're always gonna go, well, who has more championships?
That's what I do.
The Yankees do.
You're right. I do that.
And then when me being a sarcastic asshole, I like to say, well, they won 18 championships before full integration, so they really only have 9 championships. Because if you win 18 championships while the brothers and the Latinos are on the side and they're the predominant athletes in the sport, you really win those 18 championships. But anyway, I digress.
That's funny. You should championships shouldn't count unless you actually saw your team win those championships. You can't be mentioning all those championships. I give you that. So I know you're a big figure guy too, right? When it comes to collecting the figures.
I was for a while, man. I had to put them away, dude. I kid you not. Like, I don't even know how I got dates or got girls to go out with me, because at one time my room looked like a toy store. It was ridiculous.
Crazy.
So I had to put them away because I had to stop it, man. I had to stop it. I have a ton of figures, and I've slowly been selling them off to people who've really been interested. And it kind of hurts a bit. And literally, like, it's wild because I'll never forget it. It all started like I just random date. We went into a store in the city, and this was Punk leaving. This was post-Punk leaving. And I was like, it was the first CM Punk toy I saw in years. You know, he left in 2014, right?
Yep.
So it was like it might have been a year and a half. And I saw that CM Punk figure, and I was like, I got to get it. It's the first one I've seen in a long, long time. And it snowballed from there. It went from 1 Punk to 9 Punks to 18 Punks. And I was like, well, I got this Punk. I got to get the Taker to match that WrestleMania match. Oh, man, I got to get that Brock, though. And then before I know it, I had 150 figures just all over everywhere. And I could not believe that happened. I do love the figures, and I know that there's some figures coming out soon that I'm definitely going to buy. I saw the mock-up for the Mia Yim figure. I have to get that. That's going to be one that'll never leave the collection. But yeah, man, because you know what? It's like a video game. Like, could you imagine being in history, like having your image forever and with today's digital age, like, it'll be forever.
Yeah.
It won't be like the 1600s where you have to find someone who will draw you. Once
Yeah.
you're in a video game, you're in the video game forever. Backwards compatibility would make that game playable forever.
Yep.
So that's dope. And it's the same thing with figures, like with social media. Like you said, we have all this access to information. Once you have that figure made, it will always be accessible. Your legacy, that'll always be tied to your legacy. So like it's so cool, man. I love them, and they've gotten so much better. Like when I was growing up, they were the little tiny ones that
Yep.
did
That
like
didn't
one
move.
motion or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
then they went to Jacks, and they were rubbery. They were more lifelike, but they still weren't great.
Yeah.
And now like Mattel is just taking it to a whole different level. They've done things with McFarlane where it's like you can't even believe the detail on those figures.
Yep.
It's great. It's great. It's great. You see, you're trying to wake that collector out of me, and I was like, no, these guys go to Battle Club. No more
Yeah.
toys.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Everybody has their thing that's a wrestling fan that they collect or whatever. My boy Andrew has like a gazillion autographs. I know Shane Fair is into autographs as well.
Yeah.
Me, I'm the same way as you, man. Figures. I'm like at probably like 45, going to 50
Man.
now. So I'm like, I'm right behind you. And for me, oh my goodness, when Toys R Us went out of business, I was getting the elite figures for like $8, man.
Racking up, right?
It was crazy. So I was spending money like
Yeah.
it was nuts, man. The way I was spending money on those figures, man. But all right, so wrapping up, man. Just so fans, they can how they can stay connected with you, how they can stay connected with Battle Club Pro, and find out about all your events coming up.
I mean, social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.com/Battle Club Pro. Twitter and Instagram is X Battle Club Pro. Again, we're on pause, and we're okay being on pause because I just who I am, just who my team is. We couldn't risk anyone's health. Like I said, like if there's a way to do something, and I know it's safe, we will.
Yeah.
But we also want to make sure that it's in New York because with all these trying times, we really want to bring that home because that's where it deserves to be.
Mm-hmm.
We might be coming out with some content. I'm not gonna say anything quite yet, but there might be some content on that Battle Club Pro YouTube page. In talks with Title Match to maybe get this content out on their streaming service to go further out. But slowly as the world opens back up, the presence will pick back up. We're not going anywhere. That's just the case. That's not the case. We're not going anywhere. We realize that right now, people's lives and people's health is more important than putting on wrestling shows. And we're all, the management team, the ownership team, we're all in a position where we're fortunate enough to not need to do wrestling in order to survive. And it is a blessing. So we'll just be on the, we're laying low for that right now, but things are coming. I know that my partner Ray Red, he's been working tirelessly to try to re-up and revamp the whole merchandise scene, and I think that's going to be dropping soon. I think we'll have a legitimate link where you can buy Battle Club gear, and then we'll tie it in. It's like, hey, if you can, do orders and we do shows, it could be discounted or you can be entered in raffles or whatever the case may be. But our thing is that, there's content. All of our stuff's on Title Match. We have stuff on YouTube. We're not as active on social media as we should be because, again, the voice is needed for other things. But we're there. We try. We thank fans if ever they retweet our stuff, if ever they interact. And that's just the way it is right now. So right now, just laying low, but we will be back in full effect. And when we are, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, no, I'll put my money on it for sure. Definitely can't wait for that. And when things kind of get back to normal, you guys are running your shows, I'll make my way up to New York, man, and I'll come check you out, bro.
I appreciate it, man. Just let me know, man. Just let me know.
Definitely. And definitely make sure you check out Battle Club Pro. Great company, inclusive, diverse, great talent. I don't know what more you could want from a company right there. And Joe, I thank you for, taking the time out, making this work for me, man. And, I appreciate it. And then hopefully in the future, man, I'll work something out. I'll get you back on, man, so we can do
Oh,
something
for
else.
sure. I'm always down. Like I said, if any of you guys are scraping the bottom of the guest barrel, I'm always down to talk. You know,
Nah,
it's
nah. You're at the top of the barrel, bro. You're at the top of
but
it.
yeah, man, I appreciate you having me on. I love, you know, anytime someone takes something into their own possession and tries to run with it. Rap and wrestle makes so much sense in the world. You know, they had the rock and wrestling connection in the '80s, so
Yeah,
like obviously it's just natural transition. So you know, man, keep going for it, man. It's a good platform. You know, whatever you can do to tie it in together, you know,
yeah,
more so, then definitely do it, man, and keep pushing.
yeah, definitely, man. I definitely appreciate that for sure. And you know, as for us, you know, Rap and Wrestle on Instagram, Twitter. Thank you for listening to this episode and watching it. YouTube, iTunes. Just type in Rap and Wrestle. Follow us Instagram, Twitter. Stay up to date with everything. And for this episode, we are out.